So I'm getting ready to change up some things in the Rabbitry because the one constant in my life is that I like to constantly redo things. So I want to do a little review on these PVC rabbit cage stands that I made. I have been using these for over a year, probably close to like a year and a half or so, maybe right around a year. And they work great if you just need something that's easy to put together. The reason that I ended up going with a PVC instead of wood, point blank, I hate working with wood. I can work with it, but I don't have like a good workshop. So it's a lot easier to just get PVC, get the little hand clamp PVC cutter and the paste that ties the PVC together, and you can easily do that in your living room if you want to. Much easier to work with than having to bring out the power tools to actually cut the wood and build things with wood. So that's why I went with PVC. They hold up great. So I live in Florida, so they've held up fine through the hot weather. Maybe if you lived somewhere that was really cold, it might get brittle, but I don't have that worry. These hold cages that are 30 by 48. Obviously you can make them out of whatever you want. They are honestly pretty sturdy. I don't have any problems at all with rabbits like bouncing them around or moving them. Nothing's ever fallen apart, but I did use that like blue glue that dissolves it here at the joint so that they stay stuck together. And I also have them up on bricks so that they can't sink into the ground. The total cost for me for each one of these, this is estimate because I don't have the numbers from when I actually built it, but it's about 50 bucks in today's market to build them because I need about 8 poles, technically 7, but I always added an extra one. So 8 poles, 8 10-foot long poles. 12 of the 4-point connectors, and then 4 elbow joints for the bottom, just to add a little bit more surface area for the bottom of the stands. The biggest reason why I no longer want to use these, and you can see it here, and this I think is a design flaw for me. You can see here and here, I have the cages sitting on the poles, and that's what's supporting them. I think if I was to redo these with PVC, I would hang the cages from the top of the pole instead, and that would alleviate this issue that I have, that it's essentially they just get really dirty and they're hard to clean because the cage is sitting on the pole. It creates areas for dirt to get trapped, and it drives me insane. The problem too with having it be white, rabbit pee stains everything, so the calcium from the rabbit pee gets onto these really bad, and again it's just really difficult to clean. I have these little things, which is just plastic that I used, and I zip tied it onto the cage to be a baby saver. It works okay. It's not bad if you're, again, limited on your tools, or maybe you're limited on your hand strength and you just need something that's a little easier to put on for baby saver. These are like political signs you can get, and you can cut them up. They last really well. But again, a cleanliness issue. They're a lot harder to keep clean, but they do work okay. And then for me personally as well, because I rested them on this pole, I have some weird things going on with pee sometimes. So underneath all of my rabbit trays, I also put a tarp. So I have 2 layers of protection to make sure that nothing is getting into the bottom cages, and that works beautifully. I think it's also just with the issue that I have because these are 30 by 48 inch cages, and I had to use some like non-standard pans. I don't have that problem with like my 30 by 30 or 30 by 36 cages. But overall, this isn't a bad idea if you don't have tools to work with wood, you don't have space to work with wood. At about 50 bucks to build one of these. It'll be a little bit cheaper if you're just building one for one, because again, these cages are 48 inches long. It'll be a little bit more expensive if you're building a 2-stander, which I do have. I've got some that hold 2 30 by 30 cages, so they're 60 inches versus 48 inches. You just have to calculate what your costs are. But not a bad option if you're just looking for something cheap and relatively easy. This is also a good option if you need something that is movable. So I'm able to, if there's no rabbits in it, my boyfriend and I can just pick these up, move them around wherever we need to. So if you're in a temporary situation, you know, you're renting or anything like that where you don't want something that's more permanent, these might be a fantastic option for you. I haven't had any issues with them like tipping or falling over. I live in Florida, so we have hurricanes. We actually did have a hurricane come through about a year ago, and these held up just fine. I even had something fall on one and it crushed it a little bit, but it still held together. That adhesive, if you do use the adhesive, which I would recommend, holds it together really, really well. Another thing to add a little bit more stability, I don't think you can see it, but I have zip tied the top of the cages to the poles, and that just provides some stability with the cage itself so that the stand isn't wiggling around at all. So overall, I like them. I'm gonna give them a 6 out of 10, simply because they're very difficult to keep clean. I don't like the aesthetic of them as much as I do some other things. They've held up for me really well for a year. There's not showing any signs of warping or any problems there. I imagine they would continue to hold up for many more years. Definitely do recommend, if this is something that you decide to do, there is a cheaper PVC pipe that I think is like 280 PSI. Don't buy that one. Buy the one that's like 480, I believe. But it's just a thicker pipe material. I made that mistake. I think, yeah, this one, I don't think you can see it, but there's black writing on it. This is the cheaper one, and it is significantly more flimsy. This one has red writing on it, and it is a much, much thicker pole, and I wish I had just made them completely out of the thicker pole. But they're okay. I'm actually going to be redoing it and getting rid of these and doing some metal posts and putting them on that way. So once that is a chore for Sunday. So I got to get all these rabbits moved and get this area prepped to set that up. And then these are, I'm going to convert them over to hold quail. So I'm still going to use them, just going to use them for quail instead of the rabbits. Probably do some side adjustments. Maybe not have, probably won't have a top cage. So these are about 5 feet tall. I'm 5'3", so if you're a shorty like me, maybe not the best idea to make your cages 5 foot tall. I use a step stool to get up to the top ones, but you could do a two system if you want to. I have about 4 or so inches between each of the cages. Yeah, about 4 inches, 4 or 5 inches between each of the cages, to make it easy to slide trays in and out, get lots of good airflow, and then it sits up about 6 inches from the bottom of the ground. So it's not a bad setup. I've liked it for the past year, but I am ready for a change of just something that makes it a little easier to keep clean. But thanks.